right, this is my favorite lesson of all time. This is triads. So really quick, if you don't know what a triad is, triads are basically like a tricycle. When you're learning how to ride a bicycle as a kid and you can't ride two wheels yet, a tricycle is the best thing out there because it stays up on three wheels. In the chord world in music, a triad is three notes holding themselves up together. And it's really easy to ride a tricycle. It's also really easy to play a triad once you're shown how to do it. So we're going to go through a few things here. I made some notes, put them on a screen below, so I'll be referring to these notes so it's more organized. So please follow along. First of all, power chords that we learned last time using two notes, really easy to play. But this lesson is really for people who are seeking out their own sound. My favorite thing about guitar is you can sculpt and find your own sound in there. And everyone's got their own voice inside this instrument, just like you have your own voice when you speak, when you sing. And I want you to find your voice in your guitar. So without worrying about notes and actual technical terms, triad is something that is technical, but we're going to focus on the first fundamentals here of what a triad is, building the chord out, chord structure, and the importance of technique playing that chord, and then we'll get into some technique and play with it. Now that you know what a triad is, which is this three notes together, we're going to go ahead and explore it on the guitar. So we're going to build the chord up. So building the chord, just like anything, start with one note, the big note on the bottom. We want to get you comfortable with this area of the guitar down here where it's easiest to play. So let's go ahead and start and build the chords, starting with that bass note. And the lowest note on the guitar is the bass note or the lowest note in the chord. And traditionally I tell people you can play one note at a time. Play guitar perfectly fine. But really what we want to do is we want to build the chord structure with three fingers. And the three fingers that are best are going to be your thumb holding the chord from the back of the guitar, your pointer finger pushing on the first bass note, and then your ring finger skipping one fret and going to the next dot. So you're just using the two dots here. And then your pinky finger landing on the same fret as your ring fingers. This is where it gets a little bit tricky. You're starting to probably think, man, there's not enough space in here to put my fingers in there. And that's true. If you put them side by side, they won't fit. It won't fit on the fret. So what I want you to do is think of it as the fret as a diagonal, like a diagonal line drawn across the fret, across like this. If you can fit those fingers on that diagonal line, they're going to stay inside the fret and stay away from the metal bars on the fret. And those are what create buzz. So if you're always within inside those bars, you can play anywhere in the fret and be safe. But try to get them on a diagonal so your hand lands nice and comfortably. Then take your thumb, push it, get that claw technique with your forearm, and use your thumb and you power into the chord. And this kind of three-fingered squeeze approach, that's how you get the power, and then pulling it down, that's how you get more power. The structure is going to be basically this for all of it. So the power chord, which you have learned at some point, is just two notes. It's a dyad, two notes, di meaning two. If you go ahead and hit the first note, the second note, like we've done in the past on previous lessons, this is a power chord. Right? You've heard this 1,000 times. This triad, we're going to actually use the ring finger. All right? So that gives us, and if that's more comfortable for you, that's great. We're going to use the ring finger, same power chord technique, but we're going to add the pinky finger right next to the ring finger on that fret. So please try that out. We're going to keep this hand position locked in. So this technique is super important. So let's go ahead and get that ironed out first. So once you have that figured out, we can move on to the next part. So if you need to pause the video, please pause it, practice just this, and then come back when you're ready. If you are able to play this triad, you're now playing a triad chord. So now we're going to go into practical application, triads across the fretboard, introducing octaves and diminished chords, and then moving across the strings to play with the triad finger position. So first, practical application. How do we play this triad well so that it doesn't create chaos on the neck? And if I open up my neck and play it like this, there's a lot of chaos happening beyond the three fingers. So we're going to focus on the three fingers playing, and we're going to try to keep it locked in there. So three fingers, three notes being played. Let's play those and just only those. You can use your pinky on your guitar to hold it down so your hand's not floating around everywhere. Or you can use multiple fingers and just use your thumb. We're not too worried about the right hand right now because all it's doing is just giving us some sound. If it's not perfect, that's okay. This left hand is really what we're focusing on because this is what's holding the notes together, what's keeping them playing. Triads are really popular in pop punk music. I love pop punk. I like alternative, emo type music. I'm a millennial, so obviously that's what I grew up listening to. But it's a fun music to play because it's easy. Easy in the sense that you know how to play a power chord. So if we go ahead and take this triad, we can use our hand shape up and down the neck to create ease of playing anywhere, just like a power chord. So I'm going to start here with my 3 fingers and play it fast together. And now it plays a power chord with the triad power chord. So let's go ahead and play here, and then I'm going to move up the neck and then back down to this dot. So I'm going to start here in this dot, which is the 3rd fret. I'm going to move up to this dot up here, which is the 7th fret, and then back down to the 3rd fret, or the first dot. So 1, 2, 3, 3rd dot, 1st dot, 3rd dot. I like using dots because counting out numbers to me doesn't feel as fun as just looking at a dot and knowing which dot it is. So let's go ahead and start here. So we're going to play this 4 times in a row. It's 4 times. And I'm going to go up to the 3rd dot up here. Let's do it again. And I'm muting the strings with my palm just to make it easier to hear. If I play it out loud like this, it sounds super familiar because this is a whole style of playing guitar. It's really my favorite way to play guitar. I pick up a guitar, first thing I want to do is I want to get a triad down and just hear how the guitar sounds. It's like an immediate way of playing guitar, and it's also the best way to sound like you're good without actually being that good. So we're going to move around the dots a little bit to show you how easy it is to play with this chord, but notice my hand is not changing shape. It's keeping its shape in this triad position. So I'm going to go ahead and play here. Let's do it again. Okay, so now that we know how to play that across the fretboard, we're going to focus on something a little bit easier, and it's this technique of introducing the way the triad sounds so you know what's happening. So the triad has octaves inside of it, and it just has 1 octave. So an octave is a low note and a high note that are the same note but different octaves on the scale. And if you're not familiar with scale, think of a person that has a really low voice singing and a person that has a really high voice singing. They're singing the same note, so together they're an octave. And interestingly, the big note and the smallest note are an octave on the guitar. So the guitar is all about octaves. It makes it sound bigger, and it's also easy to find octaves on guitar because it's tuned to find octaves easily. So right here, the pinky and the pointer finger are playing an octave. So if I put my ring finger down and I remove the ring finger, I just play those 2, playing an octave. All right, so now that we know what an octave is, we can start playing with what an octave can do. So octaves generally are meant to sound more full. So when you're playing a power chord without a triad, it sounds small. When you add the high note on top, it sounds big. It sounds like a real song almost. What makes this fun, what unlocks the power out of this, and by all means, you don't have to do any of this beyond this. You can play this pretty much anywhere on the neck. So that was kind of sloppy, but you can see I can literally play any song I can make up from scratch anywhere, and those frets don't matter. What matters is that wasn't written. I just went with wherever the dots were and just played that hand position over and over. So now that we know how the hand position works and the playing works, what I want to focus on in this lesson really is how can you shape that sound? Because right now, we're both playing the same thing. It sounds the same as every other song that plays this way, but I want to broaden the sound. What can we do with it? So what we can do with the sound is we can actually take the pinky, and the pinky is what unlocks everything here on this sound, is it's moving that octave note up and then down. And this is tricky because it's adding something new to an unchanging hand position. So we're going to change only one finger on the hand position, which is the pinky, and we're going to move it up or down, and that's still playing what I call one note at a time. So these two lower notes are what I call drone notes. Drone notes are notes that are just droning, they never change. They keep the same all the time, like a guy playing a big bagpipe, you know. And these drone notes are going to help our pinky sound like it's doing a lot of cool stuff without doing much work. So if I take my pinky and move it up to the next dot, this is kind of a reach. So if you're not familiar with how to reach, you've got to take your wrist and push your elbow in so it creates this kind of hook thing. So to reach, you have to really give yourself more to work with. If you're like this, you're not going to be able to get there. I can't get there with my wrist locked. So you have to really bring your elbow down and push it up. So we're going to take our pinky finger and we're going to bring it up to the next dot. And now we have this really interesting, really broad sounding sound. So here's a standard octave triad. Here's the standard triad. Here's the triad when it's what I call augmented or bigger. Now it sounds really full. So I'm going to play these two together and you're going to watch my pinky move, but my two fingers stay in the same place. So here we go. Let's go up. And that's those two drone notes of the power chord. Then the pinky is just going up to the next note. So you're starting to sound like you really know what you're doing. When all you're doing is just staying in a safe place down here on this first dot, and you're moving your pinky up a fret, a whole step to here, which is basically an entire dot. But there's another thing you can do is you can go down. So going down what I call a half step, or what was referred to as a half step, is going from one dot down in between dots. That's a half step. So dots are full steps. In between dots are half steps. So if I were to go full step, it'd be dot to dot. If I go half step, it's half, going up half, right? So if I want to go down a half step, down towards the head of the guitar, I need to use my pinky going down, but look how hard it is to get my pinky down. It's really hard. So going up is easy. So I can go. But going down, it's almost impossible because my hand is just not shaped like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my middle finger and I'm going to make my middle finger substitute for my pinky. So the middle finger can sneak in here and push down on the next note down, because this is up a whole step, this is down a half step. So if I use my pinky down a half step, it wouldn't be able to reach unless I did some different hand position. And I'm trying to keep our hand position the same, so you're not running around rushing back to certain hand shapes. So I like having my hands do the work. If there's an extra finger lying around, I'm going to pick it up and use it, and then let the other finger rest. So I have my triad. I'm going to take my middle finger, put it down, and I'm going to play it. That's a diminished triad, so it sounds smaller. So here's an augmented, here's a diminished. Right, so my middle finger is holding it. And here's the nice part about this. You can keep your middle finger down and play your pinky again. So I can have this middle finger constantly on if I want, and I can just remove my pinky whenever I want. So this is very popular on D chords. People love to do this with their pinky on a D chord. They'll go. They'll do that all day. That's like the most common guitar trope. Once you learn a D chord, which we won't get into right now, and you start playing your pinky, the pinky is the octave bouncing around. So in a power chord, we're going to use our pinky to do the same thing, but we're going to use our middle finger to hold that place for us. So we're going to play here. I'm going to bring it down. And now I'm playing a perfect diminished power chord. So pinky off, pinky on, pinky off. There we go, got it. So this experimentation is what I want to push you towards. This is what I love to do. My favorite thing about guitar is that you can take this triad and you can go up and down with one finger and sound like you really have something. So I'm going to do that with that technique. So I'm going to play the full triad. I'm going to go up and then down so you can see this technique at play with all of these things in motion. So This is where guitar gets fun, is when you can start playing around and making your own sound. So really here's an experimentation just from nothing, making this with just the pinky and the middle finger substituting for the pinky down below. So I'll keep that down so you can see it. There we go. Pretty cool. I didn't even move my hand from this first dot, where my pointer finger is. Now, if we take that same technique, we can now move it around the neck. That technique works everywhere. It works everywhere on the neck. So if you were to go up here to this dot, look at it before. Watch this. All right, so the next parts of this lesson are moving across the strings, practical guitar advice, and then summary and final thoughts. So we're almost through this. Triads can be played pretty much anywhere on the neck, like I just showed you. And triads are meant to be played anywhere on the neck because they're a very flexible and very safe chord to play. There's no getting it wrong because it's usually right every time. So we're gonna start here. I'm gonna go up to a different fret. So I'm gonna go up to this third dot, but I'm gonna go up a half step because I want to find a chord that works with this one. So I'm gonna play here. And once again, if you're not familiar with the full sound, you can use one finger. And you can find a note. You could use that one if you want to. You could just sit there and search for two notes to work together. Once you've found two notes, stick to your guns and play with those too. So we're gonna use two notes here. Two chords, so I'm going to use a full chord here and then here. Up to the top, back down. That's the third dot, half step up. It should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fret 8. Fret 3, fret 8. See? 3, 8. Okay, let's deploy that technique on those two chords, but I'll show you how we can move across the string. So I'm going to play here. Go up, down. So you just saw the technique in action going down and then going up. So that was just something you can try and experiment and find. But here's where it gets even more fun. The guitar is designed to make it easier to play across the strings. So let's go ahead and utilize the guitar more as a tool and less as a thing you're working on, because this can get tiring doing this. So the guitar is tuned so you can move across the strings just like power chords, across without having to worry about going up. See that? This chord is that chord. So I'm going to do the same hand position. I'm going to move it with the 3, the triad. I'm going to play here. Back down, back up, back down. And look, if I go here, easy. So now I'm playing a triad in the same dot. So now I'm using the first dot, playing that chord progression in the same dot. So I'm saving a bunch of energy. So I'm gonna play here. And here's the coolest part. This finger, middle finger dance with that one string. This basically. That can be done with the next position over. So watch. Pretty much how I play guitar. It's almost like there's no lessons after this one. There's still tons of stuff to share, but that's how you do it. And the simple thing about that shape is you can experiment with the shape, you can move it around, you can really mold that sound to something unique. So you can pick anywhere on the fret, anywhere on the fretboard, anywhere. I can just pick a random here, and I can go like this. And now I can start playing with those 3 notes. And it works. It always works. The guitar is very simple if you look at it from a very simple perspective, which is 1 note, 2 notes, 3 notes, and then playing with that that high note. And there's more complex things you can do with this, but this really is the key to unlocking a lot of the guitars, just using triads and having fun with them. So if I were to take this note as an example, I could find a second note. Even a third, so here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I like these 3. And these aren't even on dots. These are just 3 notes that are half steps. Okay, let's try this. Nice. Let's try adding the down. And what's cool about that is it kind of tells the listener, hey, we're gonna go down a chord because it's prepping you. And I could tell them you're gonna go back up. So watch this. So I'm gonna go. Let's try it again. So I just used that technique to make a new song. Potentially that's a song. Someone's probably already made it, but I think that sounds cool. So I could play with that all day. And that's how you write a lot of music on guitar, is just finding something that's simple, adding a couple notes to it, changing that top note a little bit, and then just sticking to your guns on 1 note at a time with that bass note. And you're going to find that there's infinite possibilities with this, and it's very simple. And sometimes I think about the guitar as like a Rubik's Cube you're trying to solve. I love Rubik's Cubes because every time you solve it, it's different, but the cube's still a cube. And in this case, the guitar is always a guitar, and you're solving chords, and there's just 3 notes, and you can play with those notes. And right now we're only playing with the top note. So if you unlock more potential, which will be another lesson, is how do you play with the middle note or the low note? Can you do more with those other 2 notes? And the answer is you can do anything you want. It's just giving yourself that base, that confidence to try new things without being worried about it sounding bad. And I don't want you to live down here in the G, D, and A chord. I want you to stay having fun on the neck, using the first dot, building off of it, finding your own sound. And ultimately, experimentation on guitar is what creates new sounds. And I want everyone watching this to find their own sound and be unique and be their own guitarist. And playing other people's music's fun. I love playing covers, and I actually do it quite often. But I think the fun of finding your own sound is what makes the instrument so popular still and so elusive, and everyone's always chasing something on it, and that sound is what people chase, that I personally chase the most. Thanks again for following along, and I'll see you on the next one.